Hi, everybody, and welcome back to U.S. History. This is our last section of notes for this unit. So your notes will be due today after this video. So go ahead and get them out and let's get started. So today we're talking about the New Deal, the government's attempt to end the Great Depression. So let's get started. So in 1932, a newcomer to the White House won the presidential election, that being Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR, as you'll hear me refer him to. The Democrats won huge majorities in both houses of Congress, and it was very clear Americans wanted change, and they put all their hopes in the Democrats to make that happen. So FDR had a plan. He implemented a series of progressive government reforms that increased the government's role in the economy. Now, his focuses were on the three R's: relief, recovery, and reform. Relief was designed to make programs that gave help or money to the poor and needy. Recovery, programs that were intended to fix the economy in the short run and get people back to work. And reform, programs intended to regulate the economy to prevent future depressions. These reforms became known as the New Deal. So, another big thing he did that was new was the fireside chats. These were regular radio broadcasts that explained his plans and reassured Americans. He explained complicated economic reforms in simple terms. Fireside Chat number 1, which you will have a chance to read today, encouraged people to put money back in the banks. They can't survive without it. And it was crucial to his popularity. People felt like FDR was talking directly to them. So, in the first 100 days of his term, FDR was extremely active in implementing government programs, passed 15 major pieces of legislation, and greatly expanded the role of government, and believed it was the only way to get the economy back on track. Government was the only thing with the power and resources to do so. So let's talk about some of these things. So when it came to regulating banks, the first thing he did was declare a bank holiday and closed all the banks and assess the health of the banks. Banks that were solvent or could handle themselves and have enough money to reopen could reopen. Insolvent banks were given government loans or not allowed to reopen if they were too far gone. Now, one of the major pieces he passed to strengthen the banking system was the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC. We still have this today. Now, this provided federal insurance for individual bank accounts up to $5,000. Now there was a safety net, and this reassured people that their money was safe. When it came to regulating the stock market, the Federal Securities Act forced companies to be completely honest with their stock info, and this information was commonly misrepresented prior to the stock market crash. In terms of stimulating the economy, the Agricultural Adjustment Act raised crop prices by lowering the supply, paid farmers roughly $200 million to kill livestock, 6 million pigs roughly, and destroy 10 million acres of fields of crops. Now, this upset a lot of people because many of them were starving. And the 6 million pigs that were killed, they weren't slaughtered and the food was sold. They were just killed and put in a mass grave. Now, and people were really upset by this. You just wasted a lot of food. Now, he also raised crop and livestock prices to put money back into the farmers' pockets so the farms could get back up and running. In terms of jobs, we have examples such as the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Tennessee Valley Authority. The Civilian Conservation Corps paid $30 a month. 25 of it would be sent straight home to your families, and it provided 3 million men from the ages of 18 to 25 with work and wages. They built roads, parks, bridges, and planted trees to help prevent the Dust Bowl. The Tennessee Valley Authority helped the Tennessee River Valley, which was hit really hard by the Depression. It restored 5 dams and built 20 new ones, and it created thousands of jobs and provided flood control and power to the Tennessee River Valley. In terms of housing, the Homeowners Loan Corporation and the Federal Housing Administration helped give loans to those facing foreclosures and government loans for home mortgages to get people back into their homes. The second 100 days was the same as the first, just a little bit bigger. It was a lot more extensive relief. It was a second burst of government programs, and the economy was better, but unemployment was still at 19%. So it had gone down from 25 to 19%. So it was improving, but not by much yet. Some more work initiatives included the Works Progress Administration, which created as many jobs as quickly as possible. The government spent $11 billion on it and saw the construction of 850 airports, 651,000 miles of road, and 125,000 buildings. They also provided jobs to actors, artists, and writers to go around and perform and write and make art. You also have the Wagner Act, which prohibited unfair labor practices, the Fair Labor Standards Act, which gave us the 40-hour work week, the minimum wage, and reestablished stricter child labor laws. Now, one of the biggest things to come out of the New Deal is Social Security. It's one of the most influential aspects of the New Deal. Now, this is old age insurance, unemployment compensation, and aid to families with dependent children. We still have this today. By far, Social Security is one of the most prevalent legacies of the New Deal still in existence in our government today. So, there was some opposition to the New Deal. New Deal programs put the government into great debt, and they were having to do something known as deficit spending, so spending money they didn't have. The spending was considered to be unnecessary and dangerous. People didn't like the fact that the government was interfering with the free market, and the government was getting too involved in the economy. To an extent, also, the Supreme Court ruled some programs of the New Deal unconstitutional, including the Agricultural Adjustment Act, because of its direct influence on the market. So let's talk about some legacy of the New Deal. These programs still influence U.S. politics and society today. So things like the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Securities Exchange Commission, Social Security, the National Labor and Regulation Board, and labor, mainly in the idea of wages and hours, are all among the legacy of the New Deal. Those are all still here today. By far the biggest legacy thing we could talk about is how it changed the role of government. Expanded the role of government to include the social welfare of its citizens, provide regulations on the economy, labor, and business. It forever changed how people viewed the government. Before the New Deal, Americans depended on themselves. After the New Deal, Americans looked to the government for assistance. Now, the New Deal provided much-needed relief to struggling Americans. But did it create more problems than it solved? That's something we're still weighing with as historians today. However, the New Deal did not end the Great Depression. We can thank Adolf Hitler and Hideki Tojo for that. We'll talk about them next unit. So the final question I want you all to consider: was the New Deal constitutional? Think about that and let me know. So your assignment is to read Fireside Chat number 1 and answer the questions that go along with it on Google Classroom. I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.